Well, good morning, everyone. This is me at Dalmunzie Castle Hotel, or Dalmunzie, is what it's pronounced correctly. A lot of people call it Dalmunzie, but its correct pronunciation is Dalmunzie. So I've just paid £5. If you come here, you'll see a little area which gets very busy in the summer, like this morning. It's actually quite busy. I was able to get in, paid my £5 at reception, and I'm just heading along the track now. The walk this morning, or today, is from the hotel, and we're going to follow a narrow gauge railway line. Now, this line was built in 1920, when basically the castle itself was in private ownership. A lot of shooting around here, beautiful countryside, and this particular walk, which isn't long, probably 2.5 to 3 hours. We've been up here before. Actually, we've been up this hill. If you look behind me, this one here, been up that one. Oh, well, I've been up virtually them all here, all the major ones. You would take a right there if you want to go right up the glen. There's some really nice hills up there. But we're just going to continue here. We're going to follow the narrow gauge railway that used to take, well, people would go up to the castle, well-to-do, and they would stay at the castle. They'd like to go shooting as well. So this ends up with an old ruined shooting lodge at the end. And we're going to follow what remains of the track. To be honest, there isn't much. And there's also an area that people used to walk from here to a little station just up here, with a train, a tiny little train, would come along with the carriages and take them all the way out to the lodge to shoot. And probably a lot of food as well, etc. It is a lovely walk. Like I say, it's quite a short walk. Today is July. It's actually quite warm, slightly overcast, which I quite like. I'm not a particularly great lover of the scorching sunshine. Anyway, let's get going. All you do is keep bearing left and taking this path. A beautiful day.
It's going to be hot.
Oh, it's going to be hot, yeah. Plenty of water. The river's always there. That's the best thing. Enjoy. Nice little chat with the cyclist there. He must be about my age as well. It's that time where all the old buggers are out on the hills. He's probably going to cycle in and do, I can't remember the Monroe up here. I'll put it up on the screen. Done it a few times. It's a pretty straightforward Monroe, but quite interesting. That particular Monroe I'm talking about, I was there many years ago. It was probably winter time, and when I arrived at the top, there must have been about 60 people on the top. I was like, that's mad. And a guy had just completed all his, Monroes. So he had a bottle of whiskey and everything. He was passing it around to anybody that appeared. About 100 metres from the gate, you'll see there's path going up. You can go that way, and there's one to the right, and it goes zigzag. What happens is you go past the station and have to return back. So I hit this one. It's about 100 metres from the gate. You see we just went through a gate there, and you'll see this sort of path coming up. Just want to follow that, really. It's like a Land Rover track. What you see here is where they built it up to create a little station. You'll see the flatness of it here. I don't know if you can get an idea. You see where the train would have stopped there. This is really the beginning of the track. It's about 2.5 miles, about 4 kilometres long. So you can see castles just behind them trees there, where the people would walk here and wait for the train, and the train would take them all the way along, get Glen Lochsie to the lodge. So that's us just moving now. We're going to head along. You can see the remains of the steel track there, and you catch this all the way along, little bits of it. Sir Archibald Birkmyre was actually the owner of Dalmunzie Castle at that time, and he was really responsible for the building of this little railway. People would come to the castle, and they would, small portion would walk up here to the station and all get on, and it would take roughly about 25 minutes to get to the end, or to the lodge I should say, to do some shooting, and they'd bring food and drinks, etc. But also, I mean, if they shot deer or whatever, they'd bring it back on the train as well. So quite an achievement, I think. You see it's a pretty good path which would have held the railway. Must have been quite interesting going along here. Must have been beautiful actually, carrying all the guns, etc. Ladies in their best shooting gear, men in the same. All out for a bit of shooting, bit of picnic, few drinks probably at the lodge. I'm not too sure if they stayed at the lodge, I might have to have a look at that. Originally, we used to go along here on horse or by foot. So by foot it's about an hour and a bit, I suppose. 4 kilometres an hour. Yeah, about an hour, maybe a bit more because of the rough ground. So the actual gauge itself was 2 foot 6 inches, or 762 millimetres. So it was narrow gauge. You can see where the path just follows that edge of the glen all the way around. Obviously, the train didn't go very fast. It was probably at crawling speed. In fact, it took 25 minutes. It was probably, very, very slow. And of course, the more people had on it, the slower it went. Most of the time, the locomotive itself was driven by the ghillies, or the state ghillies. They weren't like professional train drivers, etc. But it seemed sensible that we would want the ghillies out there anyway for the shooting, so they might as well be employed as part of the driving as well, rather than have a separate driver who, when he gets over the end, doesn't do anything. Like I say, there's not a lot left. Like all the steel must have been removed at some point, all the tracks. What you normally find is lots of just the battens that are left really here and there. With you'll see something here. I don't know if you can see that with the bolts, where somebody's been bolted onto it. So you get the odd glimpse of what it was used for, but to be honest, they're far and few between. You really have to look for them. But it is a lovely walk. Today is June, the end of June, or coming to the end of June. It's about 23 degrees in Scotland. Today is June, end of June. It's about 23 degrees, overcast, boiling. A warm element when it's reasonably cold. I think it's a better time to walk. Now we're moving, I'd reckon about halfway along, maybe a bit less. You'll be able to see the gate. Don't think this was originally here. Sheep have been following me all the way along. Lots and lots of sheep at this time. You can see where we've come from. You can see the way the train lines just followed along. That's us come to the gate. Just undo the gate and go through. This would have been an original bridge here. Looks like these would have been turned to secure the rail, so I presume that was the case and there wouldn't be any wood. As you progress along, you'll see these battens of wood. What I've also seen is reinforced concrete blocks, and I presume this is where they needed more strength in particular areas. The railway was opened 1920, but it was actually closed 1978/1979. This was due to, basically, you'll see this lovely line over track down there, and fantastic four-wheel drive vehicles eventually just took over. You definitely see here where the tracks must have been secured onto the stone. Looks like reinforced stone blocks. And I can see why. There's a lot of water or something here. You can see the track continues on. I must admit, I'm very impressed by this. Just the fact that men built this. They would have had to carve this out, the side of the slope here, and then work what really 2.5 miles of track over this kind of conditions must have been fairly difficult. And some of the calculations make sure it was able to pull the carriage, etc., up here would have been, I expect, quite complex. If you look across there, what you're actually seeing is the remains of the lodge. When the last time I was here, it was still fairly substantial, but looking at that, it's really just fallen to bits. So here you just head down. We're going to cross over this section here. There's been a lot of rain lately. It's quite heavy, quite deep water. Normally the summer this would be pretty dry, you get across no problem at all. Just going to head and try and find somewhere to cross over. We're just coming down here, a nice little route across, but there's a few places. Let's see, what you're seeing is remains of the lodge. Like I said, when the last time I was here, they actually had the walls, you could see the 2 floors, etc. You can see it's really fallen to bits. Wasn't massive at all, but used to be a lot more of it than this. A lot of the stone was probably picked up from directly around here. You can see some of the walls across. There. It looks like a small ruin. I presume this is either for the servants or for the horses. Saying that just up here, you've got what looks like a stone enclosure, probably for the horses and mules or whatever. This may have been for something else. Like I say, the lodge itself is quite small, but really it was just a shelter in the sense to give them somewhere to stop and eat, and somewhere to sit outside the bad weather. This track here is a track that would take you up to Tulican, I think, and from here I think it probably another hour and a bit, maybe 2 hours to get there, and it's like this all the way up. It's not a bad hill, I'm not doing that today. I've come to here, we'll do a bit more videoing, and I'm going to head back the way I came. But before that, I'm going to have some lunch. Looking at this, of all the people that came here to shoot over 60 years, well, it's more than that, but only 60 years for the little narrow gauge train to come along here. Prior to that, you come out by horse or by foot. So, thousands of people. The train itself finished in 78, 79, but it did, continue on a little bit longer. And that was with four-wheel drives, etc., coming out here. But I don't know if this was still ever used. Probably not. It just fell into disrepair. You can just see bits there of the roof with the slates on. But the lodge and shooting lodge is where we're going to end. It's really just returning the same way you came. But even, it's still quite an interesting walk. You could head up to the Munro. I'm just heading back. There around this area, there are tons and tons of walks. Stay at the hotel and you can step outside and pick up lots and lots of good walks. We're going to head back this way, and I really appreciate you guys joining me. I haven't been putting many up lately. I had about 6 weeks of shingles down one side of my body, which if you've ever had it at a certain age, it's not particularly nice. So it's really recovered. I've had the odd walk here and there, but just getting out now and getting myself back into shape. So hopefully a few more to come. But as normal, I really appreciate you guys joining me, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. You guys take care. All the best.